Did you also feel something strange when Chrono Trigger kept going after Chrono died? Not exactly sadness, not just surprise either, something harder to explain, as if the game was still functioning normally, but something important had suddenly ceased to exist. Something close to a feeling of emptiness in that experience. And the curious part is that this feeling comes from a character who barely speaks at all. Chrono Trigger does not need much introduction. Everything a great JRPG needs is there. Unforgettable characters, multiple endings, Akira Toriyama's unmistakable touch, a time travel story that still feels elegant, and a soundtrack so memorable that more than 30 years later it still receives covers from fans of the game or simply from people who enjoy good music. When we talk about our favorite works, whether books, movies, or games, one question always comes up. If you could erase part of your memory to experience something again, for the first time, what would you choose? Playing Chrono Trigger again would be very close to the top of my list, and maybe that says something about how deeply that game impacted me, which becomes even more impressive if we consider how many great games the Super Nintendo library has. I remember putting my own name on Crono at the beginning of the game. I also remember renaming Morrow after the girl I liked. Maybe many people did something similar. Chrono Trigger brings us unusually close to its story, and one immersion too probably stands above all others here: the Silent Protagonist. This device appears in other acclaimed games as well: Link from The Legend of Zelda, Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. It is simple but surprisingly sophisticated. By reducing the explicit personality of the character, space is created for the player's personality to enter. Chrono barely speaks. As expected in games, you make decisions, you walk, you explore, you fight enemies, but during conversations between characters, he mostly observes. When people speak to him, his reactions are often limited to nodding or some other silent response. The less the protagonist imposes who he is, the greater the chance that different people will feel like they occupy that place. And that is ingenious because every player is unique. Some are more impulsive, others more introspective, some more heroic, and others more pragmatic. The Silent Protagonist creates a very efficient structure to accommodate all of this without conflict. But Chrono Trigger goes a little further. Chrono does not speak, but he's not erased either. He celebrates, he gets scared, he reacts. Through small animations, body language, moments of hesitation and excitement. Technical limitations result in only a few variations, that is true, but each one of them is expressive. There is, therefore, a personality there, subtle and waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. That red-haired swordsman is not simply an empty avatar whose name can be edited. The first time I played the game, I never stopped to think about that. I was simply absorbed by the concept. Chrono was simply me, or at least that was what it felt like, until the moment the game completely breaks that paradigm. Chrono's death may be one of the strongest scenes in the entire game, and this is where I explain why I did not apologize for spoilers. We are not talking about a new release or even a recent game. Going back to the point, until that moment, there was a kind of silent agreement. You lead, Chrono follows. You decide, Chrono acts. Even though he's not a completely blank canvas, he still functions as an extension of your will, and then it breaks. In front of levels, the game makes us watch Crono make an independent decision to attack. There was no command. There was actually a cutscene. He sacrifices himself, and perhaps the most interesting thing is observing how he does it, without speeches, without excitation. Only the silent courage, typical of characters destined for greatness. For the first time in the entire game, Crono stops following your commands, and he does that precisely through an act filled with meaning. But interestingly, that was not the moment that impacted me the most. Knowing from the beginning that time travel was the central theme, it seemed reasonable to assume I could eventually come back and fix that. Nothing to worry about. What came right after was what truly intrigued me. Because the game keeps going. You continue managing your party. You keep traveling through time. All the other characters remain there. And they are great. I always dream on floating around the way Magus did. Even so, until bringing Crono back, which I always knew I would, something felt different. I started feeling a kind of distance. The story without Crono seems to contain a gap. As I said, not because of any failure from the other characters. Their roles are essential and brilliantly executed, but also very different from the one reserved for Crono. And not simply because he is the main character. It feels like something is missing, a bridge, a connection to everything that is happening. Without consciously realizing it, the feeling stopped being of participation. I began to feel more like an ordinary player holding a controller. And that was when I realized something unusual. I was missing someone who practically never spoke. Even stranger, it felt a little like I was missing myself. And I think this is where one of Chrono Trigger's greatest narrative achievement appears. It creates a character who functions almost all the time as a projection of the player, but then reveals that he never was only that. Crono was not merely a narrative element left open for the player's personality. He was someone silent, someone discreet, but someone. Maybe that's why bringing Crono back never felt like a side quest. I confess, I never completed every ending in the game because I cannot stop myself from reviving Crono and seeing the emotion of the reunion. I cannot bring myself to fight Magus and give up having him on my team. Bringing Crono back means recovering a presence, a personal bond with the game's story, while at the same time bringing back a character with his own individuality. I didn't want only to regain my avatar. I also wanted to bring back to the group that loyal, heroic, and dependable guy. The way the game is set, Crono is emotionally indispensable and probably one of the most eloquent silent protagonists in the history of video games. If you enjoy this, please hit the like button. If you want more, subscribe. And also take some time to tell me how did you feel playing without Crono. I'd love to know. I'm Charlie and I truly appreciate your time.